Dear students, and welcome back to our English class. Today we are going to be looking at the second chapter of your rapid reading section. It is called Once Upon a Christmas. This chapter is written by a very famous American author by the name of Pearl Buck. Pearl Buck was someone who spent a lot of her time in China because she was the daughter of missionaries, and we are told that she spent most of her life before 1934 in China. Her novel The Good Earth was the best-selling fiction book in the United States in 1931 and 1932 and won the Pulitzer Prize in 1932. In 1938, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for her rich and truly epic descriptions of peasant life in China and for her biographical masterpieces. She was the first American woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, and of course there's a lot that you can read up about her, but what we need to know is we're talking about an extraordinary writer, and like we have seen, she writes a lot about China and Chinese life there. And in today's class also we have this chapter, but the story is a lot more personal. It is something that happened in her life. It's a true story, and it is set around the time of Christmas. Now, what is the story of Christmas? We know that Christmas is the time when Jesus was born, and I want to especially talk to you about stars. You must have seen for Christmas, it's a tradition that all these Catholics will have a star outside their house. If they build the crib is that grotto that they make where they put the statues of baby Jesus and they recreate that birth scene of Jesus. So even when you have the grotto, you will have a star right next to the grotto, somewhere on top, but there will always be a star there. And what is the significance of the star? Why do we have this star? It is said that when Jesus was about to be born, the wise men, people who could see the future, they came to know that a king is to be born. And they tell the news to King Herod. King Herod was the ruler of this land that Jesus belonged to. And King Herod is very upset because he's quite old and he did not have any children being born to him. So when the wise men tell him that a king is to be born, he is afraid. He feels like somebody is going to be born that will overthrow his throne. Okay, but of course we're not talking about the king in terms of an earthly king. We were talking about king in terms of the Son of God. That would have been the king that was to be born. Okay, that would be Jesus Christ. Anyway, so he is very upset, so he passes a law. He decides to kill all infants because if it that is the male child, because male children, sorry, because he believes that if at all this king is to be born, then he will be killed beforehand, and that way the situation will be cleared. The whole tension will be out of the way, and there will be nobody who's going to be born or who's going to grow up to become a future king, right? So in order to prevent a situation like this, we are told that Jesus's father, that is Joseph, takes his mother, that is Mary, and they go away to hide the baby. Okay, and of course, when Jesus is born, there are other people, other kings who come to know that there is a king that is born, a new king is born, and they want to go and pay their respects to this new king, and they do not know how to go about it, how to actually meet this new king. So you must have heard of the three kings who were trying to serve Jesus, to pay their respects and to give him gifts because he was a king, and because their own wise men had told them that a king is born. So of course the story goes that there is a star that guides them. So they come from different parts of the world, and there is a star that brings them right to the crib, right to that grotto, that small shed that Jesus is born in. And that is why we will always have a star, because that star is it leads the three kings from to the exact place that Jesus was born. Okay, so Christmas is a reminder of this beautiful incident of Jesus's birth, but especially of the star, because where the star was, there the king was born. Okay, this reference is important because you will see something that happens in the story which goes back to this whole incident of Jesus's birth. All right, so let's start. It says, "It is Christmas Eve. The house is still." I'm sorry, let me just zoom this. Yeah, now let's start. "It is Christmas Eve. The house is still. The stockings hung at the chimney piece, the holly wreaths in the windows, and I have put the last gift under the Christmas tree. I treasure these final few minutes each year before I go upstairs. I feel my home warm about me, alive with past memories and present life, fulfillment of yesterday and anticipation of tomorrow. For strange and wonderful events have happened to me at Christmas, and I have come to expect the unexpected. Some new joy above other joys, the over and beyond. I wonder what it will be this year." Okay, so we have Pearl S. Buck, she's reflecting. The time period is somewhere, we are not told what is the year exactly, but we just know it is Christmas time and it is Christmas Eve, that is the 24th, evening. Okay, and she's sitting down in her house and she's, absorbing this whole moment because she says she loves this time. She loves the eve of Christmas, the day just before Christmas. And she says there's something about it because in her entire life she has noticed that strange and wonderful events have happened to me at Christmas. Okay, so she wants to know what is it going to be this year? What will happen this year? How will Christmas Eve surprise her this year? Okay, so the house is very well decorated. There are stockings where there are Santa stockings that are hung over the chimney piece. There are holly wreaths. These are all Christmas decorations on the window. There's a Christmas tree, and she's put gifts under the Christmas tree. So the house is all nice and warm and ready for Christmas, which is the next day. All right, but she's wondering, and she's thinking about all the past Christmases as well as what this present Christmas will surprise her with. Okay, and then we are told, "And while I wonder, I remember, and I do not know why, another Christmas long ago and far away from here. I think of a night before Christmas, like this one. I was very young then, newly married to a man I did not know well enough. In that China, at least in the Chinese circles in which my family lived, it was difficult for a girl to see a young man alone or often." Okay, so let me just explain this bit to you. Like I said, Pearl S. Buck was the daughter of missionaries that were living in China, right? So she spent a lot of her growing up years and early marriage years as well in China. All right, and here we are told that she was, at the this memory. She's going back to a certain memory of a Christmas many years earlier, and during that time she was in China. At the moment, of course, she is in America. Okay, when the lesson starts out, she is in America. Okay, so the memory goes back to when she was in China and she was newly married to this man that she did not know well enough. And this man, we are later on told, is also an American man. Paul S. Buck herself is American. Okay, so there are two Americans. She and her husband are both Americans, but they're living in China. Okay, so she's married to him, but she does not really know him that well. And why does she not know him that well is because in that China, at least in the Chinese circles in which my family lived, it was difficult for a girl to see a young man alone or often. So they lived in a very traditional and conservative, part of China. So although she was an American, she takes on the same traditions, and we are told that she does not know her husband very well because the tradition was such in that place. She could not meet the husband, or rather the boy, for too long before she got married. So letters, yes, but there were few meetings before we were married. So letters they wrote to each other, but they did not meet much, so therefore they don't know each other too well and they're not very comfortable with each other, but they are at the same time married. And we are told that now I was alone with him at Christmas time. We two, the only Americans in a small ancient city in North China. And I was trying not to be lonely. So they are both married. She does not know him too well, but they live alone in a house. They don't have children yet and no other family. And they are the only two Americans living in that very small city in China. And she's feeling lonely, but she tries her level best not to feel lonely. Now, the only joy that she has that it is Christmas, and the only thing that keeps her excited about it is that she says, "My parents were coming to spend Christmas, however, and how eagerly I look forward to that." So that's the only thing that's making her excited about Christmas, because her parents said that they were coming, and of course, her parents were in China itself. Okay, so I looked forward to that for. Um, For days, I had been making elaborate preparations, the first I had ever made by myself. So, obviously, she's excited that the only family she has in China, they're coming over. Her own parents are coming over to spend Christmas with her and her husband. So, she goes out of her way to make that Christmas very special. So, she starts cooking, and this is the first time she has cooked such a systematic and very multiple dishes, dishes all by herself. Okay, what did she make? She cooked a wild goose instead of the turkey not to be had in a remote part of the world. So usually Americans would have a turkey. Okay, they would bake it, but it is not available in that part of China. So they use an alternative bird. They use a goose. So she cooks that. She makes 8 precious Chinese puddings made of glutinous rice. I have a picture to show you what that would look like. And they looked really delicious. So she makes 8 different types of these puddings. Then we are told that she had 8 kinds of sweet dried fruits instead of plum pudding. Plum pudding is another constant at American functions, but she can't find that, so she makes sweet dried fruits. She has sweet dried fruits. Okay, heavenly bamboo with its green leaves and scarlet berries instead of holly. Okay, so Chinese substitutes, but good enough to celebrate Christmas and good enough to have a grand celebration along with her parents. All right. Then on the very morning of Christmas Eve, a telegram announced that my mother was not well enough to come and my father must stay with her. So on the very morning of Christmas Eve, that is, we are talking about the 24th of December, 24th morning, she gets a telegram, and in the telegram she gets bad news that her mother is not coming because she's not well, and the father also cannot come because the father obviously has got to take care of the mother. So she realizes that she's lonely. She just has her husband and herself for Christmas, and nobody to share this, beautiful season with. No family and no other American friend also around to share this celebration with. And she's cooked so much of food, right? Suddenly, Christmas was empty and the celebration forlorn. Okay, so Christmas felt empty. Obviously, you need people for any occasion. You need people to celebrate and feel happy. And here nobody's coming, so everything was the celebration seemed empty and forlorn, almost sad, abandoned. Okay, of course I tried to hide my disappointment, but the day dragged, and I was glad when evening came and I could light the kerosene lamps. There were no such things as electricity in our city. So, come evening, that is 24th evening, she lights the kerosene lamps because they don't have electricity, and because it's time to sleep, she's a little happy. Okay, because the day is just boring. There's nothing to do, nobody around to talk to except her husband. Okay, so in the evening, what she does is she played Christmas carols. Perhaps they had a radio, so they play Christmas carols, and we are told, I remember, and we talked, we too, of Christmas in our childhoods. His in a farmhouse under snow in America, mine in a Chinese house in a tropical climate, until at last it was time to go to bed. So the only good thing that happened about that night was She and her husband get to talking, and since it's Christmas, they talk about Christmas and they bond over that conversation. They both talk about their childhood memories of how the husband used to celebrate Christmas in America and how she celebrated Christmas here in China itself. Okay, while the husband celebrated Christmas in the snow, she celebrated Christmas in a much more warm climate, a climate like ours in India. Until at last it was time to go to bed. So finally it was time to go to bed and they are ready. But for some reason, she says, I could not sleep, I remember. After an hour or so, just before midnight, I got up and went to the window in the living room. And I saw a star shining above the city wall, but very far away. Now here's our tiny bit of clue. Okay, so one thing you need to remember that it is Christmas Eve. It's just the day before the 25th of December, the day that Christ was born. All right, and what the author here sees is a star. Remember, I told you the story of Jesus's birth and how there was a star that was seen and that guided those three wise men to the exact place that Jesus was born in. Although it was a crib, it was like a shed, okay, but the star is right there, okay, and it can be seen on the day before Jesus was born and even on the day that Jesus was born. All right. So here also we are told that she sees this shining star above the city wall, but very, very far away. But she can see this very bright shining star. It was at this moment that I heard a knock on the front door, a soft, hesitating sort of knock. Okay, so imagine it's late at night, there's no sound, she can only see the star, it's bright enough that she can see it from a distance, and she hears a knock at her door. Now, ideally, most of us would not attend to a door like that at this time, but she is a little curious. Okay, and it's hesitating sort of knock. That means this person is not in a hurry. This person is knocking at the door, but the person seems a little unsure while he or she is knocking the door. Okay, so she says, "Who could be there at such an hour?" So this is very odd. So late at night, who could it be? Bandits lurked in our area, and perhaps I should not open the door. But I did open it, and a small boy stood there, a small Chinese boy. 10 years old, he said later, but looking 5 or 6. Okay, so she knew that there were bandits would be thieves. There were thieves around that area where she was staying, in that area in China. And of course it was late at night. So she knew she should not have opened the door ideally, but she can't contain her curiosity and she opens the door, and to her surprise she sees a small Chinese boy outside her door. And this Chinese boy was actually 10 years old. She comes to know much later, but when she looks at this boy, he looks like he's only 5 or 6 years old. So he looks a lot younger than his real age. Why is that? We are told he was very thin and he was in rags. But what I remember to this day are his eyes. He had enormous dark eyes in a thin, angelic little face, the forehead high and the chin pointed beneath a beautiful, calm mouth. So you can just picture the child. This child is a very, angelic looking child. And the best part about this child is the eyes. The eyes were big. It was big and dark. So if you have seen pictures of children with big dark eyes, you can, they look really innocent and they're very appealing. They look very beautiful. Okay, so not this baby, but this child looked like that. He looked like an angel with those big eyes of his. Okay, and yes, of course, a chin pointed beneath a beautiful, calm mouth. Okay, so pointed chin and a beautiful, calm mouth. So nice looking boy. Okay, indeed, the expression of the face was unusual. Pale and emaciated, the child's face was tranquil, confident, and untroubled. He did not speak. He simply stood there looking up at me. Okay, so we know that this child looks very pale, this child looks very emaciated, very weak, like as if he has not eaten food for a couple of days. Okay, yet the expression on the child's face is not troubled. The child looks very tranquil. Tranquil means very calm, confident, and untroubled. So there's a lot of peace in the child's expressions, and that is what she finds very unusual, because to look at him, he looked very weak, yet the expression was, he was not scared, he was not worried about anything, he was just calm. But he did not speak, he simply stood there and he looked at the author. Okay, so let's see who this child was and what happens later on in the story. We will stop right here for today's class.